like Christmas everywhere you go. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Hey, 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 everybody. Let me turn that off. So that'll work a little bit better. Hey, folks, how's it going? How's everybody doing? Lady Wendelin tells me I am live. I mean, I feel mostly live, but just a little bit off. Anybody out there happened to watch my last stream where I was feeling a little bit off? I think we figured out what happened. I have apparently, in the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, developed a grapefruit allergy. Because so we were trying to figure out, like, basically what I felt like was, and this hit as soon as I went live. It was kind of the feeling you get after you eat Taco Bell, but I didn't eat no Taco Bell. And, after about an hour after the stream, I felt okay, basically. We're kind of like going, like, what did it? Because I hadn't had anything, spicy, really. Maybe like a day or so before, I had a little bit of something that was in a curry sauce, but like it really wasn't spicy curry, and I had very little of it. So it was like a real puzzler. And then it occurred to me that like maybe 20 minutes before the stream, I had some grapefruit juice. Not a big deal. I've had that brand before, maybe like a couple, 3 weeks earlier. No problems. I like grapefruit. I eat grapefruit. So on Friday, after Thanksgiving, before I had anything major to do, had the day off. So I'm like, let me have a little bit more of this grapefruit juice. And I'm literally like from a little juice glass, like a tiny amount. Drank it. About 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh, yikes. So apparently grapefruit juice has hit me that way, or at least the particular grapefruit juice I was drinking, which was like a more natural one, didn't have a bunch of crap loaded into it. So anyways, yeah, that was apparently the culprit. So maybe a new allergy that I have to deal with. Crazy stuff. But once you get past the age of 50, things start going weird with your body, and you just got to figure out a way to roll with it. But I welcome everybody to the stream. Happily feeling better today. So what do we got to chat about today? We got a couple little things. But one of the things we're going to be doing today is opening up. I guess I should put that over there. Get out of my shot. No. Opening up some Marvel Legends figures that have arrived recently in the den. I've shown these off just in package on the streams, but I hadn't opened a lot of them up because I've just been busy with stuff. So I figured, what the heck, might as well do that. I thought about just making a full video out of it, but I got a bunch of stuff already sort of planned for December. So I'm like, yeah, let's just do it on the live stream. So, for all those real collecty types out there, oh yeah, I'm taking these off cards. I'm utterly brutal about it too. For a while there, I would save the packaging so I could do stuff, if I ever wanted to sell it, I'd have the packaging at least. And now I've gotten to the point where I don't even do that. There's the back of the package. Man of War. Remember the proper orientation, wrong side of 50, but right side of the dirt. Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah, it's yeah, it is weird. It is weird. Like, just all of a sudden stuff that it's been no problem your entire life, and then suddenly it is sort of a problem. All right, are any of these? Okay, doesn't look like any of this stuff is like going to be difficult to get out of here, which is cool. Here is the flaming chain of Johnny. Wait a minute, I almost said Johnny Storm. What the hell's his name? Johnny Blaze. Okay, it took me a second. All right, so here's Johnny's whip chain deal. Very nice. By the way, you do have a couple additions. We got some flames that would obviously kind of go on his hands. We got just some flame enshrouded hands here. I can grab those without dropping them. I think they have started to basically knock down on the extras, because that's going to be a fairly good increase in price. And a lot of people were kind of like going, yeah, but once I got this thing set up on my shelf, if I do get it on my shelf, then I don't really need all the extras anymore. Whoops, I just dropped here's his alternate head. Let's grab it that way. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit of, is it Heat Miser? Heat Miser from the old Year Without a Santa Claus. You always did like my brother best. But anyways, yeah, so I think some of the extras, I think they've started slowing down on some of that stuff. What I've been doing is taking those extras and just putting them in plastic bags with a little note card that says what it came from. But in all honesty, it's like I'm going to hold on to it, I guess, for the resale value, because God knows these are going to get resold at some point, or given away or what have you. So I might as well have all that stuff still with it. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with any of that stuff, if I'm ever going to use it. I pretty much just take these things as they are and put them on a shelf just to enjoy for myself. Keep it pretty simple. All right, let's see. We got this dude off card. Is he standing? He's standing, actually. He stands pretty well. Not too bad. All right, let's take a look. So here is Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider. All right, we got to get the chain in his hand for sure. Come on, baby. Get in there. All right. And I don't think, it doesn't look like the chain is really posable or anything, which is fine. Get his little feet there. All right, so there we go. Johnny Blaze. Wow, look at that. That's like Kirby. That's Kirby. Oops, wait a minute. There we go. Look at that. Okay. So there we go. Not bad. I like it. Always a very cool character. Obviously, nerd me would be a little bit more into if it was more the blue costume from the old stuff, but it's pretty good. I do notice that the jaw moves on the skeleton. Well, there you go. Okay. If I can actually get it to do anything. So you can, open mouth, close mouth. I guess, put a little cigar in there if you'd really like. There we go. So first one opened. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. The legs look a little, it's like, the upper thigh part looks a little small compared to the lower. That's because it almost looks like he's wearing jodhpurs here. I guess he maybe kind of is. I'm like, did he? But see, this is probably from a different comic version to some degree than the really oldie stuff that I'm most aware of. But I like it. It's a pretty good face sculpt. Or I guess in this case, skull sculpt. Yeah, the flaming hair looks pretty decent. I dig it. And I'm thinking these extra little flame bits, I think, are designed to sort of just more or less maybe fit over the like fit over the arm, kind of like that. Obviously, I might even have this thing kind of backwards, but you get the basic idea of what you could do with it. But yeah, I think it's good for display. Good, good, good. Okay, one down, a few to go. And I got to keep all these extra bits over to the side so I don't lose them. So what are some other things to chat about today? Zootopia 2 apparently opened pretty strong. Doing good in China, but of course in China you're going to be missing out on a lot of that money. I know basically zero about Zootopia. Opened well after I had a little kid in the house. I don't think my daughter has showed any interest in it really whatsoever. I don't think she's ever talked about it at all. But and I know a lot of folks kind of, laugh about the furry aspect of it. But I'm like going, yeah, but I mean, you've had, humanoid animal cartoons for friggin' ever. And I suppose there's always been weirdos out there who did weird things with it. But, I don't know if it's really aimed after that. But I've heard a couple reviews. Oh, she did. And she liked the first one. Okay. I heard one review said it's okay, but it's not as good as the first one. And one other one, somebody said, yeah, it took the kids. They liked it. So it seems like it's just, more or less animated movie for the kids, which is cool. I mean, what I kind of like is it just doesn't sound like there's anything crazy about this, which I think is a good sign. Like, you just kind of just need movies to be movies again without everything having to be, a battleground for politics. Just make a movie that's funny, or an action movie. I'm going to talk about one later. It's an old one, but again, it's just sort of like, yeah, just an action flick, man. What's wrong with that? My one complaint is the Manowar says, my wife put it on streaming a while back. One of the best naps I ever had. Yeah, I know. It kind of sometimes, hey, you know what? A good nap is a very valuable thing, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But the McDonald's commercial, I don't know if anybody's seen it out there. Probably have. Mildly annoys me. And here's why. There's got to be some reason. All right, you got those two main characters, the fox and the rabbit. They're driving around in this little, you could call it a police car, but it looks more like a golf cart with lights on top of it. It's very small. And they're in pursuit, but they decide to stop through McDonald's because it's quick. Of course, it's not going to end up being quick, which maybe is not the best advertising for McDonald's, but the sloth gets in front of them in line in his sports car. And they're like, so she tries to go, back up to get out of the drive-through line. And this giraffe pulls up in this great big vehicle behind her. Okay. But the problem is, from the one camera angle, you could see that she could easily just make a left turn and pull like into the parking lot and get out of there. Or at a minimum, this thing is so small, they allow too much space. She could probably just drive around the friggin' giraffe if she wanted to. It's a lack of attention to detail. Drives me nuts. Also, my daughter is a big Stranger Things fan. I never really watched it. I never got into it. My wife likes it too. Pardon me. But apparently, in this 5th season, they royally screw up a D&D reference. They reference sorcerers as opposed to like wizards, and it's like, no. This is advanced D&D days. There are magic users. There are no sorcerers. There's no alternate magic system in that regard. Yes, there were alternate systems in Dragon Magazine and stuff. That's not what they're talking about. So they screwed up. So I told my daughter, and wife, I'm like, I'm sorry. You can't watch this. They messed up a D&D reference. That's not acceptable in this house. Apparently, they also screwed up a Ghost and Goblins kid playing it on Nintendo, but on the screen, it's the arcade Ghosts and Goblins, not the Nintendo Ghost and Goblins. Folks, we have got to have standards. We've got to have standards. Anyhow, but when there is that lack of attention to detail sometimes for things like that, and honestly, the D&D one should be easy. Like, the folks doing it, all you got to do is crack open the player's handbook and you pretty much know what you got there. It's not that tough, right? Or just have somebody who is an actual old school D&D fan who could look at it and be like, no, that's wrong. You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. Because we're talking like the Sorcerer's 3rd edition that comes out like 2000 or something like that. I mean, it's way off. It's 20 years off. It's not even close. You get that lack of attention to details like that, and you go, are there going to be plot holes in this thing? Are there going to be bad characterizations in this thing? Because if you're not paying attention to kind of a basic little factoid, you could almost kind of just look up, or like I said, find somebody who knows. How much effort's going into the rest of it? I don't know. I'm hearing mixed reviews on the season so far. It doesn't sound like anybody is desperately in love with it at this point. But again, I never watched it. I was listening to people talk about it yesterday on something, and my wife's watched it, so she knows what they're talking about. I'm kind of like, I don't know any of these names really. I mostly, what little I know, I use just to annoy my daughter when we're talking about the thing. Like, I call Dustin baby fish mouth. That annoys her. But he didn't, doesn't have teeth. Baby fish mouth is a reference to When Harry Met Sally. But at any rate, all I know basically about things like Zootopia and Stranger Things is just enough to annoy people who like them. And that's really enough for me. Now, speaking of fine entertainment, there is a crowdfund coming, apparently, in December that regards Gamera. But it's still kind of a mystery about what it is. Is it a movie? Is it a TV show? Is it animation? Don't know. But I guess this year is Gamera's 60th birthday. And I think, like a lot of people, I know Gamera because of Mystery Science Theater 3000. They did not play these on TV when I was a kid. If they did, I would have watched the hell out of them, honestly. I would have loved Gamera. But I didn't find out about it until my 20s on Mystery Science Theater. And they are some of the best Mystery Science Theaters, honestly, are the Gamera films. Oh, Manowar says, pulled several muscles, cringing so hard at the D&D in season 4. Yeah, I remember when Stranger Things first popped up, like that first little teaser for the first season. And I think Google Plus was still a thing at that point. And I have to admit, I kind of liked Google Plus because you could organize conversations into these circles. So you could have your D&D conversations here, and you can have your political conversations over here if you wanted to, and what have you. And they didn't have to mix. So like, you could just be sort of part of somebody's gaming circle. And that's pretty much what I was doing at the time, because I was still writing role-playing game stuff. You could kind of have your gaming circle and talk about that stuff. And I don't have to hear all your other things about religion or politics or anything else. That's fine. Cool. You can leave them over there. I kind of like Google Plus. I was sorry when it went away. But I was still, I think, on that. And so everybody's buzzing. Oh my God, it's advanced D&D. They're doing like these kids playing D&D in the 80s. I was like, okay, So I watched it, and honestly, by the end of it, I was like, okay, I guess. It just did not, the kids didn't draw me in like I was interested about the wider storyline. And I remember at the time being like, they're fighting Demogorgon? All right, man, these kids are like cheating at D&D. Like, dude, you got to play for a long time in advanced D&D rules. A long time before you're anywhere near high enough level to take on Demogorgon. We're not even talking about like one of the more minor, like demon, characters, princes, whatever. We're talking about like one of the big boys, one of the real big boys. These kids are like, they weren't that old. how long have they had these campaigns? You got a pretty high death toll of player characters in advanced D&D if you're playing by the rules. So you got to go through a few characters for somebody sticks. And then you got to be earning big time experience points before you're getting to high enough level. However, in 3rd edition, which I think is what really the people doing it played, maybe not as much. 3rd edition level advancement moved a lot faster. And it was frankly harder to get killed. Not impossible, because people who played with me know that they lost a few characters here and there, but it was harder. It's harder to die in that edition. So the idea of getting up high enough level that you could maybe do something like that, not as wild. You know, I would expect folks who are getting up to that level in advanced D&D probably playing a really intense campaign for a pretty long time before they could do something like that. Oh, this was maybe going to be one. Yeah, well, I know exactly, but that's kind of the point. Like, they wanted to use Demogorgon for the show so they could call whatever they were facing Demogorgon, right? That was kind of but in terms of the game, it didn't necessarily make sense, you know, to use that particular monster character, NPC, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, but I remember watching it and I was kind of like, all right, you know, cool. And then it came out and people seemed to like it, but I never got into it. It's just sort of, what's the line? I think it was Dorothy Parker. No, I don't think it was her. I think it was, but somebody like her saying to somebody, I have entirely too many friends. Somebody's going to die before, you know, I can be your friend because I just have too many people to juggle. I got too many interests at this point. So it's hard for me to take on something extra. And that's kind of what Stranger Things was to me. I'm like, that's fine. But anyway, I mean, it seems like people mostly have enjoyed it. There were, you know, maybe a couple weaker seasons, but we'll see. Maybe they'll pull it all together in the end. That would be cool. But Gamera is going to get some kind of crowdfund. I mean, we'll see. I don't know if it's something I would back. Maybe it's not impossible, but I'm pretty happy just with the goofy old Gamera movies and sort of sticking with those. So I don't know if I need to do something new. I was watching one of the newer Gameras that they did. And it wasn't bad or anything like that. But at the same time, it was a little slow. It was kind of like, okay, you got this little turtle. He's going to grow up to be Gamera, I guess. No offense, could we just kind of get on with it? I was kind of getting bored, and I did end up turning it off. But I think that they've gotten pretty good response for a lot of the newer Gamera stuff. But the real question is, what would Dr. Doom think of Gamera? Probably would see him as a potential tool to spread his rule over the face of the earth. That's just how Doom rolls. Come on here. Come on, dude. Get that arm out of there. All right, there we go. I know I'm trying to open some of this stuff out of the plastic without making too horrible a racket. I failed there. So I typically go arms, and then legs, and then body. And you hope the head is not in so tight that it doesn't want to come out. Now this one, well, this is going to be tricky. Hold on. So I got to get the cape out of here. And the cape is wider than the hole at the top for the cape. It's not working, I know. Sorry. I'm sorry. Just think of it as a weird sort of ASMR, and you'll be fine. I know I'm trying to actually do it a little further away from the microphone. Ooh, there we go. There we go. Oh, there we almost go. Come on. 90% of the way, and it wants to give me trouble. So we do got a lot of extras here for Doom. That looks like some kind of remote control. We got some extra hands. We got some little magical spell effects. Love Dr. Doom. Not real sure about the whole Robert Downey Jr. playing Dr. Doom. Feels like it's just a bit of a gimmick. Because, like I said, I don't think I ever heard anybody ever say, you know who'd be the perfect Dr. Doom? There we go. Okay. I got to stop trying to move both things at once. There's the figure. I like it. It's classic Doom. But I don't think anybody ever said something along the lines of Robert Downey Jr. being perfect for Dr. Doom. He's a good actor. So I'm not saying he couldn't play Dr. Doom or anything like that, but don't know that that's the first thing people thought of. I think some of these characters, though, I think they're difficult. Doom is an awesome character. You know, Loki's an awesome character. But, you know, old school Marvel, these characters tend to be a bit over the top. And you sort of, if you're doing live action, you kind of need to take them down a notch to make it work. And they did pretty good in terms of Loki with that. You know, Hiddleston, was pretty popular in that regard. Here's some, oh shit. All right, let's do one at a time. Magic books that go with them. Very cool. Looks nice. Where the hell you're going to put them in a display, I don't know, because there's no like play set to use with them. It's the same book too. Both of them. It is kind of weird. They give you the same book twice. Both of them opened. You'd think maybe you'd get like one open book and a stack, you know, to go with it. Here we have, essentially these look very similar to the ones with Ghost Rider, but it's a nice looking figure, and it's chunky. It's got good heft. The only negative I could see right off the bat, and maybe it'll work out, but it's the clothing it is plastic. So getting, you know, that this cape ain't moving. That's the cape. It's going to be that shape no matter what. And if you wanted to do something with the legs, I think the little tunic here is going to maybe get in the way. It is split a little bit on the side, but I don't know. Because I'm right now trying to move the leg. Like, let's say you want to have him in a sitting position, which would make sense, having him like sitting on his little Dr. Doom throne. A dollhouse, like, yeah, that would work actually. If you want him sitting like on his throne, I think you might have a tough time with that. Getting his, because this skirt it's split a little bit, but it don't move. I can't get I'm now looking upskirt on Dr. Doom. It's one of those things you just never thought you were going to do. Yeah, I think with this figure, you pretty much need to have it just in a standing kind of position. I don't know that you're going to be able to do a whole lot else with it. There are better people than I at this, and some of them might have some tricks that they could use to get that to work. That I just don't know. But that's maybe the only complaint. I think if they'd gone mixed media and give them a cloth cape, there is this little fringe right here is cloth. So there is it's probably the most useless bit of mixed media you can imagine. But if they'd gone for like a cloth cape, with maybe a little wire, in it so you can do different shapes. I know. She knows all about my Dr. Doom kink. It's fine. It's fine. She's learned to accept it over the years. If that was cloth, if the tunic was cloth, you'd have, I think, a lot more movability on it. Oh, and here, kind of kind of see, he does have little rockets on his back. So there you go. But it's a very nice looking figure, and it's a good head sculpt. If you can get it close enough, you can get a good look at that. It's a good Doom head sculpt, but it is going to be a little bit less movable and posable, I think, because of some of those choices they made. Choices have consequences, man. You can't get away with this stuff. Marvel Legends, Hasbro. All right, what else do we got besides good old Gamera? So yeah, look for that. It says December this is going to pop up. They're being kind of mysterious about it. So this is kind of cool. A couple of the impossible to get McFarlane toys popped up on Amazon last week. I was just lucky that I saw a guy post a link. I went to it, and I got the Super Friends figure that I had wanted to get. No problem. Then I saw the link to the Red Tornado, which I was iffy on whether I was going to get or not, but by the time I got to it, it was gone. So this is now out of stock as well. So the point here is I don't know what the heck's going on with McFarlane and their pre-orders. That also happened with the 77 Spider-Man, live action Spider-Man figure. It was gone. My order from Walmart goes canceled. I guess I'm not getting it. And then pops up on Amazon. All right. So where were these things? I don't think they made another batch. I'm like, are things getting lost in transit and then they're finding them? And so the Jaina one, like it, hey, Raimi, what's cooking, man? The Jaina one was supposed to be available. There's a couple places, but one of them was GameStop, and it was never really available. It just seemed like they pushed back the release date like a week, and then it just was unavailable, and that was it. And so I remember looking at eBay to see like, okay, well, people probably bought a bunch of them, speculators. Let's see what they're selling them for. And the only one that I could find at the time on eBay was from Australia. And of course, you don't know that they actually even have it in hand. I mean, they don't have it in hand at that point. But did they even really buy it? Or were they just sort of like, well, let people buy it from us, and if we ever get it, then we'll give it to them. And if not, we'll have to refund their money, or maybe abscond with it. But so Australia was the only place they were showing up at all. And I'm glad I didn't. I mean, they were selling it for like $50 something. I wasn't going to buy. And then you'd have shipping and tariffs. And no, was not going to do that. I didn't want the figure that bad. But, and then it pops up on Amazon. So I guess if there's some things like that you're interested in and you missed out, keep your eyes open. I mean, they might pop up. I want to say the account on Twitter that I saw the links on is called, I think it was Preternia. So, like Eternia, He-Man, Preternia. They just post links to different, action figure type things as they pop up. And that's the resource that I managed to use to get this thing. But it's like, seriously, man, I guess at this point with McFarlane, now they're supposed to have the DC license for all of 2026. So I don't think they're going to be making any drastic changes, I would guess, in terms of logistics. Maybe the other stuff they sell is not as hot as some of the DC things, although I would think it probably would be. So maybe they got some things they need to shift around and figure out, but they might not do it. But we'll see. Mattel's getting the license also apparently in 2026. It's a little cloudy about how that's going to work, but we'll see. Maybe Mattel will be better at this kind of thing. I have not had too many problems with Hasbro in terms of some of the Marvel Legends stuff. It's been pretty straightforward. Goes up for sale, you pre-order it, and that's it. And it seems like they're making things in bigger quantities. Marvel does tend to be more popular than DC, although I think that is shifting now. But maybe older Marvel is still more popular than DC. So maybe that's part of it, that they're putting it in bigger lots and therefore it's not as tight a window on this stuff. But I know there are a couple things that are coming out from McFarlane that I would kind of like to get, maybe, as we go, and maybe I'll just have to keep my eyes open, and they might show up, after the fact. I wanted to get that Nightwing Superpowers figure. That's just pretty much on eBay, so I don't know. Maybe Nightwing will show up at some point. I need to keep my eyes open. I see from Man of War, I had that run around with a HeroQuest GameStop exclusive a couple years back. I don't even bother. Yeah, and I generally don't. I don't freak out about it, but it's like, oh, that's cool. I'll pre-order it if I can pre-order it. If I get to it and it's already gone, okay, big deal. I did kind of want this one. And so it's like, I was kind of waiting for it. And I've actually had a lot of success on GameStop with some of these figures. They seem to be at GameStop longer than they are at other outlets. They sell out quicker other places. So there's a couple different things I managed to find there, and they've been pretty good. But this one, like I said, it never really went up for sale. And I was kind of like, was this delayed from China? But I wouldn't think that'd be a problem because it's a pre-order. So you're not shipping it that day or anything. So if it's delayed a couple weeks, it's delayed a couple weeks, whatever. Are they losing things, or was there a problem? I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. But no, they did not make a Marvin and Wendy that I'm aware of. And I don't know if they're going to at this point. I will say that I did order the Aquaman because I decided with the Super Friends ones, I'm going to get just a couple, 3 characters that I particularly like. So I grabbed the Green Lantern when that came out, because that was like, when I was a kid, elementary school, Super Friends, Green Lantern was my dude. Loved Green Lantern. Loved Aquaman. He taught me how to make crafts, like putting beans in between a couple paper plates to make a tambourine. I respected that. So I wanted that one. And I wanted the Jaina one. I thought it was very cool. I haven't bought any of the, I did buy the Cheetah, because the Cheetah one looked really good. And I got to say, one of the best face sculpts that I've seen on a toy. Really, 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 really done well. Right up there with the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman that they got. I think I'm going to do in December, I think one of my live streams, I'm going to do like favorite toys that came out this year, sort of, play with them on screen, organized. Let's figure out what my favorite ones were that I got this year. I think I'm going to do a favorite comics as well. I might do something with movies, but those are definitely up there, just in terms of the quality of the sculpt. Really friggin' good. But I don't know how far they're going with the Super Friends. They only got this year to do it. They've done Batman, Green Lantern, Aquaman. They haven't done a Wonder Woman yet, which I would assume they probably would. I might grab that. I think they've done Superman. I think they have done Superman. They've done Brainiac for sure. I think they maybe did Toyman as well. They've done Bizarro Batman and Bizarro Superman, which seemed a little overkill to me. I think they've done a Riddler. They've done a few. So I don't know how many more they're going to do. Yeah, basically, Ramey, a top 10 sort of list is what I'm aiming at. Toy Galaxy, I think it's now Secret Galaxy. I remember they would do that. The guy on that would sort of do these videos of breaking down. He's kind of have all these figures that he got that year and sort of maybe this one, maybe that. I think that guy's in my top 10. I might do something kind of like that, nothing like stealing a good concept from somebody else who's got a much more popular channel than you. Anyhow, I guess the point of all this is with McFarlane, keep your eyes open. I kind of wish I had gotten that Red Tornado. It's a really cool looking figure, but I was too late. I don't know how many units they even had to sell. As soon as I saw that pop up, I probably saw it within about 10 or 15 minutes. of it being posted, maybe 20 minutes, and that dude was gone. Although at the time I was like, well, probably for the best. Like I needed to buy another one of these things. I saw that. Hey, Anton, how's it going? How's it going, Anton? I saw that Alice in Wonderland is getting a 4K remaster. It is going to be showed off at the 2026 TCM Classic Film Festival. I guess they have done a couple of these here recently. What was it? I think it was Snow White and Cinderella. And people said they did a really, really nice job on it. So people are excited of Alice in Wonderland. It'd be great if they would release it into the theaters. I would go see Alice in Wonderland. It's a really good one. Great animation. My secret guess about Disney, because if you remember in the past, Disney would re-release their classic films into the theaters on a particular schedule. And Lady Wendelin could probably correct me, but I want to say it was like every 7 years, something like that. They know they had a new young audience at that point. And so I got to see a lot of these just in the theater back in the 90s. They were re-releasing a bunch of them. And so they would do that to keep the things, going. And it seems like now they want to make live action versions, and they want to put out their new stuff, which is, it's fine. And they were putting out new stuff too. Back then they were doing Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, but they were also re-releasing the old stuff. I think part of the reason now is I don't think the new stuff and the live action stuff compares favorably to the original animation. And I know there might be a couple of these where they're worried because times have changed and it's not proper to this or that. There could be some of that, but I think it's in a weird way, I think they're afraid of competing with Disney of the past. I was complaining about Iger in my last stream. I think Iger particularly kind of wants as much as he can to tamp down on Walt Disney's legacy of, quality, and sort of reinsert himself into the equation. He's a bit of an egotist. And like I said, dude just basically used money. He borrowed money based upon Disney's successes of the past to buy a lot of expensive studios and IPs. And he ain't done a hell of a lot with them. And the real problem with that is it shouldn't be that hard. Like if you got the Marvel IP, and now they've assembled most of the Marvel characters. If you got that stuff, if you got Star Wars, man, you ought to be able to do that without too much trouble. Just make some good action flicks with Star Wars that are fun. They had the whole, expanded universe that they could have worked with. They probably would have hit with that, Yeah, you're going to recast, the original characters, which can be tricky, but I think they could have gotten away with it if it's done well. Like you're just going, how do you screw these things up? There's so much goodwill. They were such big properties when he got them. Like, how do you screw this up? It ought to be easy. I don't know. The dude gets on my nerves. I think he's just massively overrated. He's a guy who is good at buying things, but not good at making things. And it's not like Iger has to sit down and make these things himself. You just got to assemble the team who could do it. And if you have a team that's not doing it well, you get rid of that team and you bring in a new one. It's like, that's just how you do things in a studio. I mean, look, they're getting a big hit with Zootopia 2. They had a big hit with Lilo and Stitch, the live action, even though I know some kids from who grew up on it, who were rather annoyed at what they did with some of the characters in it and things they didn't do, but they got big hits out of those, no doubt about it. But it almost seems like their big hits are like almost an accident, almost happening at random. You should not need to have Zootopia 2 as the tent pole that makes it possible for you to make Star Wars content. Like that should not be. That should not be. You should have had some good animation coming out. God, look at what they did with Clone Wars back in the day. That was massively popular. You should have something like that, running. You should be you should be doing better with the toys than they're doing. But a lot of it is characters they've created and pushed that are just not popular, and they can't leave well enough alone because it's like they take it personally. You can't take stuff personally in business, right? If something doesn't work, it doesn't work. Sorry, that's business. We're not going to make another one. God bless you. Maybe we can work together in the future, and that's it. You're done, and you move on to something that does work. You don't keep pushing things that do not work. It just doesn't make sense. But did he kill Dream? I don't know if he killed DreamWorks. I mean, I think they kind of killed Pixar in a way. But I'm not sure if he was involved with that or not. But it wouldn't surprise me. He kind of kills everything he touches. He's draining the rivers of America, for God's sake. Come on. You got to think at some point he's going to tear down, Main Street USA and make it into a mini mall. I mean, that would be perfect. Yeah, and they, like you said, they refused to make a boy-centered action show. And you know what? Again, that ain't new. They blew it with The Rocketeer. It didn't look like it was going to sell a lot of toys immediately. So they basically said, screw it. We're not interested. And Rocketeer's a great friggin' flick. They screwed up with John Carter. I mean, they did everything in their power to make John Carter fail. And I think it was mainly because they had Star Wars coming. It would compete with Star Wars. And it's like, well, so? Then you get to have an IP, John Carter, that's doing well, and an IP, Star Wars, that's doing well. Do you think the average kid isn't going to go watch? Dude, we had like 50 good movies out at a time back in the old days, and they all did well. Like, you think this is really a problem? They're morons. They did it with Treasure Planet. They did it with the Atlantis movie. Those were both kind of had some action and stuff in it. They're very well regarded, but they don't know how to market this stuff. And I think that when you're talking about corporate America, you have different divisions within a company, right? And it's like it's a hierarchy, and the people within the hierarchy want to expand. They want to get bigger. They want more money to play with, and they don't want competition from within the company. So they don't want competition. Like Mattel doesn't want competition with Hasbro. They want to beat Hasbro, but within Mattel, there's going to be the Barbie division, and there's going to be the Toys for Boys division, and they're going to fight it out as well for who gets to be preeminent. Because remember, at some point, executive positions above that level are going to be opened up. And if the Barbie division is the most successful, then the Barbie executives are the ones who move up to those positions, right? So I always thought it was interesting that Hasbro creates G.I. Joe because there's this 12-inch doll market, action figure market, that is not being exploited by Mattel. So let's do something like that for boys, and it becomes G.I. Joe. There is no reason whatsoever that Barbie couldn't have said, or Mattel couldn't have said, okay, look, we got the Ken dude. Let's make stuff for Ken that's like, rugged boy adventure. Let's make Ken as popular with boys as Barbie is with girls. But you're like, no, they don't want to do that because that creates competition within the Barbie division. Maybe Ken starts becoming more popular than Barbie. And now I'm not going to get the promotion to another level that I want. So you got to understand that. And I think at Disney, that's part of the problem. They don't want the boys entertainment division to do well because that competes with the girls entertainment division. And it's, it's crabs in a bucket, right? Disney did that Disney XD channel. I remember this because my daughter was of the right age for Disney Channel stuff. Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place. I know far more about those TV series than any man my age should, but I watched stuff with her, so I knew, what she was seeing. So they did Disney XD, and that was supposed to be more for boys. And they had a couple cartoons that were more boy oriented for it. They had that show I'm in the Band, which we all pretty much liked in my house. It was actually pretty funny. The dudes on it were pretty good. But it's like they kind of didn't support it to the extent that they could, because that sets up a competition within Disney. So Disney cannot handle boy stuff. That sounds terrible to say it that way, but we'll leave that alone. So why the hell do they buy Star Wars? Why the hell do they buy Marvel Comics? Like, they keep doing this. We want to appeal to boys, and they buy something and then they blow it because they don't want to appeal to boys. Okay, fine. Stop trying. Just do your basic cartoon stuff, which, by the way, young, boys are going to enjoy stuff like Mickey Mouse and all that thing. You can market it to them with toys and all that good stuff, and leave the other stuff alone. You cannot handle it. Now, they got the stuff. They own the stuff. So it does make the company more valuable as a result. But at the same time, you spent billions on this stuff and you're not really recouping what you paid, because you want to get a major profit off of this stuff. And you should be able to, but they can't quite do it. They own the Black Cauldron book movie. Yeah. Well, because it would appeal to boys. They're not going to do that. They could pick any Star Wars knockoff from the 80s and make a big budget movie series from them. Yeah. They can't handle it. And I think it's probably because executive competition from within. Whenever you look at something like this and say, like, how could this be? How could this be? This seems insane. Okay, it's possible that it is insane. It's that slim possibility. But what it usually means is there's some kind of a fight within the organization that the rest of us don't get to see. And it's all about pecking order among executives, right? And that's what's probably killing a lot of this stuff. But the folks up at the very top should be looking at this situation and dealing with it. And the way you do that is you fire a prominent executive who has a property that ain't working. And that sends a little message to everybody below. Do your little fight for pecking order. But if you screw with the product and you cost the company money, you're gone. You're out of the pecking order. And they're not doing that. Where are the prominent firings, right? Let's be honest. Over the last year or two, Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige should have been fired. And I don't mean reassigned, and I don't mean retired. I mean, one or both of them should have probably been fired. That sends the message. We're serious about this. They had a lot of failures. It didn't work. You're gone. It's just business. God bless. Good luck in your next position. And we don't care. At a minimum, retire them, but you probably should just fire one of them. Probably Feige. Kathleen Kennedy probably has too much juice. Fire Feige. You just fire Feige. It's nothing personal. It's not like we hate your guts. It's just, dude, the MCU has kind of fallen apart on us. It was the biggest thing in the universe, and you blew it with the last couple phases. And I don't know that you're going to do that much better with the future ones. You've lost the touch. You got to go. We put somebody else in. We reinvigorate it. We kind of go back to basics. That's what you do. You always go back to basics. They probably should, for example, and Warner should be doing the same thing, get a friggin' cartoon series out so you could reintroduce all these characters to a new young audience. Step one. After the Batman movies kind of blew up with the last one with Mr. Freeze and all that stuff, right? You had Batman the Animated Series that kept Batman vital. And it was a very good series. And it was followed by Superman and then Justice League and then Justice League Unlimited. And it introduced tons of characters to a young generation so they would know who they were if you put out a film with those characters. You kind of got the same thing a little bit with Marvel. So that's what you do. You put something out to reintroduce the basic characters, the characters everybody knows. You're not going to try to do some weird version of the character from, the current day comics. No. It's going to be the basic Iron Man, the basic Thor. You put those out. Kids know who the characters are now. They want to go see the movies, and you make movies that are going to appeal to kids and adults, action, little comedy, etc. And you rebuild from there. And if you want to do stuff on the fringes, you can do stuff on the fringes, but you can only do that if the main body of the thing is kicking butt. Then you can do some more personal. Okay. They don't, but they have to know this. I am not an executive with 50 years of experience in Hollywood, but this is just common freaking sense. So what's going on? Is it executive infighting? Are these people really this untalented and really this deluded? They might be, but either way, the stockholders need to be doing something about this. You are not getting as much as you should be out of this situation that you're in. And Iger needs to pay the price, and everybody below him needs to pay the price until somebody steps in and gets this right. I don't know, man. It's crazy to see people fail on this level. Last little news story that I kind of had is, and we're going to be opening up. Yeah, Phantom Rider. I call him Ghost Rider as well. Basically the same kind of character. He was a villain in West Coast Avengers. He did bad things to one of my all-time favorite characters, Mockingbird. So that's why I just kind of pretend this guy is the more heroic old Western hero. Any rate, Super 7, I saw a few rumors online that it's not looking good for them. It's not looking good for them. And I got to be honest with you, some of the Black Friday deals I'm seeing would suggest that that might in fact be true, that they're maybe not doing as well as they could be. So most obvious question is why? Now, generally, the stuff I've got from Super 7, I've been pretty happy with. No major problems, but I have not bought any of their Ultimates line. And I have not bought any of like the great big stuff that's very, very, very expensive, although that Mechagodzilla was a great temptation. But what I seem to be hearing, like in the commentary on the Twitter post and things like that, is two main things that are coming up with Super 7. And those are, I was like, what is that big leg? Oh, that's right. That's the Executioner's leg. This was a Build-A-Figure. The main things I'm hearing about are price. The figures are too expensive, which I frankly have always kind of felt with their, just 3 3/4 inch stuff, that I was always like, man, if that stuff was like $15, I probably would have bought another 10 of them that I thought were cool. But in the $20, now $25 range, it's like, $20 would get me like a Mego figure back, in the day when they were producing a lot more stuff. I'm going to spend the same amount of money for a little tiny plastic figure. I don't know. So mostly what I have bought from them, shown this dude off a couple times, but he's still on my desk. I bought the D&D figures. I bought the Micronaut stuff. By the way, this dude here is actually probably potentially one of my favorite little figures of the year that I've gotten. I bought a couple Godzilla things, but not a ton. And pricing was definitely part of that. The other thing I'm hearing is quality. And I think in terms of quality, again, I've not had trouble with the figures that I have bought, but I'm buying the 3 3/4 inch stuff, which is basically a glorified Star Wars figure. Not a real tough bit of technology to duplicate. I do have the Cold Slither Zartan as well. And obviously that's, O-ring. It's a little more, get that out of there before I talk. It's a little more technologically advanced, so to speak, compared to a traditional Star Wars figure. But the quality was good on that. The Zartan quality was pretty darn good. I liked it. So where does that leave us quality-wise? Well, it's the Ultimate line, probably. Oops, I'm leaning into that thing. It's the Ultimates, and it's probably the bigger sort of Shogun Warrior style figures. And I haven't bought any, so I couldn't really comment on the quality of those, but it seems like that's where people are maybe complaining. And I have heard a couple things about the Ultimates having some problems in terms of the quality of the builds. So maybe Super 7 reached a little too far on those and didn't really have the personnel or the manufacturing right to get it done well. I don't know. Again, I haven't bought them, but it's kind of what I'm hearing. So they have organized some kind of funding, a loan structure recently that some people said, uh-oh, that's bad. I've seen other people say, no, it's fine. It's normal for businesses. But I am noticing they have a fair number of products like at Big Bad Toy Store that are in the 70% off range. Like you can get for the figures from their Silverhawks line, and I think they might be the alternates, at 70% off. It's like $62 for the 4 of them. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. Now, they might have overproduced. Who knows? People might have overordered. All that kind of stuff happens. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to Super 7 in the next year. I've gotten some cool things from them. I've enjoyed the stuff that I've gotten, so hopefully they're going to do well and they'll get stuff sorted out. But I think when you add in the tariffs, when you add in other things, other factors, it's just a tough time right now. And sometimes a major company will pick the worst possible time to expand. I can remember that right before the Great Recession happened, Chili's did a major expansion. Lots of new restaurants in the U.S. And within a few months, most of them were closed. And they just had to eat it on the deal. And it definitely hurt Chili's for a while. Let's get him up close. Get a little better look at the face. Not much of a face sculpt, of course. I like this. I really like this figure. It does seem, though, there's a little bit of a gap there. I know. First I'm doing upskirt on Dr. Doom. Now we're doing a crotch shot on Phantom Rider. But it does seem a little like loose in here, that maybe that should be a little tighter. Yeah, not something that I can adjust, I don't think. But overall, pretty darn cool. He comes with a couple 6 guns. Comes with a few different things. I just always thought this was a very cool look for a character. Always liked the look of the Phantom Rider / original Ghost Rider. So when this one popped up, I'm like, yeah, I have no interest whatsoever in building an Executioner figure, really, even though I'm a Thor fan. But I got to get this dude. So not bad. So let's look at him. Now he has the same basic kind of cape as old Doom here, but I think that unlike Doom, he doesn't have the little skirt to deal with. So he's probably going to be pretty posable. I don't know. I wonder if there's if there is a horse figure that you could get that would work for this dude if you wanted to do that kind of a diorama. If you could get him to sit on a horse. I don't know how well these figures move in terms of the legs for that kind of a thing. Well, now it looks like he's just been shot. Anyways, Phantom Rider, folks, there you go. We got one more Marvel Legend figure to open, but before we do that, let's look at a couple little reviews of comics that I just recently got, and I did manage to find time to read them. First one we'll look at is, move that down there. First one we'll look at is The Horseman #2 from Rippaverse Comics. So this is, they did like a graphic novel to introduce the character, which I showed off on the channel at one point. I think maybe in a live stream, or I may have done a full video on it. I always try to avoid spoilers, but it has been a little while. So basically the setup is you got this dude named Hector Caballero, who war vet, and in Chicago he took to fighting the different gangs, organized crime. The little twist was, he would take out like a crack house and he would abscond with the money that helped, support his family. He's got a sister-in-law and a nephew that he takes care of. She's in a wheelchair. His brother obviously passed away, so he's kind of looking out for them. But it grows a little bit dangerous in Chicago. They pretty much figure out maybe who he is. They hire some like ninjas to go after him. He manages to get away. He moves the family to Flores Park, Texas, where most of the Rippaverse is set. And he basically tries to become the Horseman there as well. And what he runs into is some superhumans that, very nearly kill him. He's kind of pulled out of a near-death situation by Braxwell, one of the Alpha Core characters, who's like, you better figure something out. Like, first of all, what you're doing is illegal, but also you're going to get yourself killed. You need better training. You need better tactics. You need something. So that's how that first book ends, with this character who his heart's kind of in the right place. I mean, he does want to fight these guys, but maybe he hasn't thought this through as well, especially in a place where there are superhumans that he's going to have to deal with. So Horseman number 1 reintroduces the character. He's back in Flores Park. He's working kind of like at a UPS kind of place. His sister-in-law's basically told him, no more of this superhero crap or you're out. We're not going to deal with that anymore. It's too dangerous. So a sort of mysterious benefactor comes along who gives him an opportunity to start up again and is going to, equip him with things, etc. And so he jumps back into the fight. He's hiding things from his sister-in-law, etc. So issue number 2 continues that story. And I think continues it well. You're still seeing a guy who's trying to sort of learn on the job. But there's some good twists. Again, I'm not going to spoil any of this. I will show off a new character they have called Pain, who is basically capable of stimulating one's nerves in a very unpleasant way. She uses that to get control of a crime syndicate from the guy who inherited it from his brother. But it's like one of the opening pages. Great art by Bennett, written well by Chuck Dixon. I like it. And I like the characters in it. And he does some good character work, I think, in the book. There are a couple. There's one, I guess you could call it a twist, but honestly, I saw it coming, and I think most people who read the book would see it coming. That's not necessarily a negative, though, because it does introduce a nice, plot device into the story of like, how's he going to deal with this? So this one ends on kind of a down note for the Horseman. So now issue 3 is going to be him, obviously, picking himself back up and figuring out what to do with it and how to chart his life ahead. Good stuff. Good, family stuff. It was cold in the pool. There was shrinkage. That would be referring. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's the Old West. They didn't have heated pools, even though I guess really he was sort of an Old West and sort of a modern character at the same time. Dude, I was so angry at Mockingbird. I'm sorry, not at Mockingbird, at Hawkeye. The way he dealt with that whole situation with his wife. He's a young dude, but I'm like, hey, I know you're a big superhero, but Mockingbird is rad. Don't mess things up with Mockingbird, for God's sakes. The other book that I got from Graham Nolan, Escape from Monster Island. This is part of a series of Monster Island books. Now, the first one was one that he did quite a while ago, before he was doing kind of Compass Comics. Well, I think he was still called Compass Comics, but before all the crowdfunding, he has re-released that book and a sequel, and this is now the third in the series. It is a fun little series. Sorry, they're trying to get some stuff out of that. So let's see, what are the extras that we got? We got a bookmark. And there was a time where I was like, I don't really need bookmarks. And now I actually end up using them quite a lot. We got a Compass Comics sticker with some of the other characters that he has. And he is weaving all of these together into a single sort of universe. Escape from Monster Island sticker. Got a little note from Graham. Sure, probably personalized to me, since I'm such a bigwig in the YouTube community, and we got this little, I don't know what you call it, print, not exactly a poster. Very cool stuff, very nice. But again, with the extras, I'm not so worried about them as I am with the story. And this is good. I love, it's like that flatter, not super shiny sort of cover. We get a little bit of his Sunshine State in the end of it. I liked it. It was fun. It was funny. I laughed at a few parts in it, which is nice since it is sort of action comedy. The concept here in the original is these two Navy pilots basically crash land on an island that is filled with giant Kirby-esque monsters, as in Jack Kirby. And they then return to Monster Island at a certain point and face the monsters and find out what the secret of the island is, who's behind all of this stuff. And this one then is them trying to get off the island that has essentially sort of transported itself, in space, maybe not in time as well. And but it's action comedy, great art from Graham. It was funny. It was good. I really enjoyed it. There's some funny stuff with the male character. They show up on this planetoid with these sort of evil aliens who enslave people to work in their mines. And he kind of twists the whole evil, ugly alien king, has a thing for the female character. In this case, it's this evil alien queen who has a thing for the male character. And he winds up in this really embarrassing outfit that he's just praying that his partner doesn't see, because she's never going to let him live it down. But we do get some giant Kirby-style monsters in it, etc. Really enjoyed it. It was good. It's really good, and I'm enjoying all the stuff that Graham is putting out these days, and looking forward to seeing more of it. So positive reactions from me for Horseman and for Monster Island. There's a lot of good indie stuff right now in comics. There really is. I also grabbed a couple Silver Age books when I was at the comic shop yesterday. Show those off. Sort of not a great copy, but the price was right for me. Old Lois Lane, where Superman has a super lady in a space girl in a turban. And I thought it's funny. It says on here, John B., keep book. That was probably a note to Mom. Do not get rid of this one, Mom. I want my Lois Lane. And I also got Metal Men taking on Chemo or Chemo. I don't know what they want to call him these days. If we don't get our own heads back on in time, Chemo will destroy us. Big fan of this stuff. First of all, the art is it's great. Who was doing the art in these? Was it Andrew? No. Oh, it's actually covered by the sticker. Let's see. This is from 65. A year before Batman. Oh, it is. It's Ross Andrew and I believe Mike Esposito. Excellent stuff. So I just picked up a couple. I grabbed a few Thor comics to fill up some gaps, and I grabbed a couple Dazzlers. I'm actually only 2 issues away from getting the whole Dazzler run. And I'm going to probably do a video on that run, or I don't know if I'll do like weekly things with Dazzler or not. I'm doing the Walt Simonson Thor this year. Final thing that I picked up this week, and this was actually one of those cases of I put a lowball bid in on eBay, literally the minimum bid on something, knowing for sure that I was going to get outbid on the thing. Obviously, I'm going to get outbid on this thing. And then I won the damn thing. So it is a Captain America Secret Wars figure. I've been looking for one with the paint intact, and this dude is in really good shape. Really good shape overall. No shield, but I kind of like to get a custom shield. I don't like the silly Secret War shields they did with the, what do you call that? You know, where you move it and it changes the picture. I can't remember what that's called. But I wanted one that was in good shape, and this guy is definitely in good shape. And it also came with a Flash Superpowers figure. And the Flash dude has his little book. I guess I could take that out of this. Oh, it's taped down. Oh, come on. I can't blame the guy for taping it down. But it did slow me down for a minute there. It comes with the little booklet, little comic kind of book that would come with these figures. So I got them for like $10 and pretty low shipping. And I was surprised. I made the bid and I'm like, okay, throw the bid in. I'm sure I'll get a thing from in about a day or two telling me that I've been outbid. And that's fine. And I made the thing. But always make sure when you're bidding on something, eBay or wherever, that you really want it and you really want to pay the money. You don't put in a high bid assuming you're going to get beaten. I only do that with low balls. But anyways, that didn't sound right, did it? Man of War. Got my Monster Island Titans Conan number 26. Scourge of the Serpent. Yeah, I need to maybe get that. And the new Savage Sword. Haven't had a minute to set aside. I know. I haven't read my Savage Sword yet. And I'm literally now going, where is that? Is it sitting? I've had to move stuff around because we've had company over. So I've had to move stacks of comic books that I usually have out, in the living room. And I'm like, oh shit, where is that thing? I got to find it. But I haven't read it yet. But yeah, that Scourge of the Serpent looks pretty cool. I might have to grab that at some point. Let's open up the last of these figures. This is the most recent arrival. And it is the Silver Surfer, which was part of that wave, which I got to be honest, none of the other characters. Well, no, that's a lie. The Phoenix and Black Widow looked really cool. There was definitely a temptation there, but no, not going to do it. I'm going to primarily stick with the stuff that I'm really a fan of, really, really enjoy. Usually quirkier characters. I know, Dr. Doom's not exactly quirky, but come on, it's Dr. Doom. How do you say no to Dr. Doom? Well, you don't say no to Dr. Doom. That's the attitude. All right. Let's get this dude out of here. All right, there's the surfboard. Oh, there's the plastic. And it comes with a little Silver Surfer comic book. What the hell I'm going to do with these, I do not know. Honestly. But everything's got to be its own little weird series nowadays. So there is a whole series of these characters that come with a little comic book like they first showed up in. All right, let's get you out of here, brother. No cape on this guy. Oh, yeah, that came out nice and easy. We do have some hand change-outs, which I might actually use because I might want to have him, sort of doing his little surfy thing with his hands looking straight out. Probably going to look. I need to get some shelf space for these things, and then what I want to do is find a comic book like cover pose that I really like and try to duplicate it for some of these characters. This is how nerds view the world. There is the surfboard. Very nice, very simple, obviously. He can just be holding it. And here is the man himself. I think they did a nice job. It's silvery, but it's not too chromed out, but I think it's a little bit shinier than it would be if it was just straight up silver paint. There we go. I think it's a good head sculpt on that one. Love the Silver Surfer. One of my favorite comic series that I've slowly been collecting over the years is The Defenders. And obviously, Silver Surfer, he was not a founding member of the Defenders, but he was in there pretty early on. Definitely would be considered one of the Defenders. So that's a series of characters I wouldn't mind grabbing. Have to get Hulk, Doctor Strange, Submariner. There he is on his board. Yeah, so that's a nice figure. That's the main reason I got it. It's just a really good looking figure. Very simple. It's just musculature, but I like it. I definitely dig it. So there we go. Those are the Marvel Legends that I have picked up recently. Not sure quite what's coming for 2026, but overall, I'm pretty happy with the quality of these figures. I haven't seen any problems with them. At worst, I have an issue sometimes with posing them, but I'm pretty sure that's a me problem. Hey, Thomas, how you doing? Yeah, I think it's me because I'm convinced I'm going to rip an arm off or something accidentally. So I'm like too careful with these things. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll try to like heat them up a little bit to loosen the joints. But, oh, are you kidding me? Every issue of the Defenders except for #1. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm nowhere near that complete on the Defenders, but it was one early on when I was, junior high getting comics. I'd find them like in, pretty cheap in the back issue bin. And so I started grabbing them, and it's just been one of those I've casually been buying as I go through life, but mostly out of like the 50-cent bin, the dollar bin. I'll spring a little bit for some of them. But one of these days, maybe I'll put a major effort into collecting those dudes. All right. Let's go ahead and look at some of the coming attractions. I don't have a massive number of these, but I did find a few things that I thought were interesting. Arrow Video has a pre-order up for Westworld Limited Edition Blu-ray, $35. It's supposed to release in February of 2026. So no, you're not getting this in time for Christmas. Very cool movie. I know a lot of people love it. I heard conflicting things about the TV series they tried to do, which sounds about right. It seems like every series that's done nowadays starts out good and has trouble finishing. And I think one of the reasons behind that is they make miniseries nowadays, with a lot of these things. And it's not episodic. Episodic is easy to do. You can have a couple, you can have a continuation episode here and there. You can even do 3 episodes in a row with a particular storyline. X-Files did a lot of that, but a lot of X-Files was just episodic, Monster of the Week. I think they need to get back into that concept. I think it builds a stronger franchise because you start out doing a mini series, and the way they like to do it is we're going to continue it to next season, but they really haven't thought it through. They really don't know where all this stuff is going. You get change outs in the creative people who are on it. They don't necessarily like what was set up the first season, so they try to warp it for the second season, and they keep getting into trouble on this kind of stuff, making these series. I think they need to look more at go episodic with some continued stories, maybe an arc, that shows up here and there, but take like the X-Files concept, roll with that. Don't try to do everything in 7, 8 episodes. Aim for 20 episodes and just do it right. And I think if they did that on streaming, it's more expensive. They'd have to spend a few bucks, but I think they might actually have more success where they get higher satisfaction from their viewers instead of people like, oh, the second season sucked. It's dead to me now. I think they'd probably do better with episodic. But that's what you get in the case. Cool movie though, Yul Brynner. I saw it a few years back, really for the first time. It's one of those things I was aware of as a kid, but I'd never actually watched it. I'd never grabbed the videotape of it. This I thought was really cool. It's from Retro Game Boys. So one word, boys spelled with a Z. They make these cool retro-inspired controllers. And this is the Pac-Man arcade version. This one, I want to say, is $90. But they have a whole bunch that you can look through. Not something I'd probably buy, but I think most or some of them are compatible with like that Atari 2600, that Pac-Man one that I showed that I bought. But very, very cool controllers for different consoles, I believe. But go to Retro Game Boys, take a look. If you're into old games, you'll probably find something that you really like there. And Thomas follows up. My cousin-in-law gave me thousands of his comic books from the 60s and 70s. Oh, man. It's what we all dream of. We all dream we're going to find this box somewhere that is just loaded with every cool thing in the world. And some people actually do. That is very, very cool. Thomas says, I played Westworld in the homeless shelter where I was. Oh, my goodness. The people enjoyed it. I saw Yul Brynner on Broadway. That's very cool. Yeah, Yul Brynner, really talented. I think I talked about this once on a stream. There's a movie he did called Kings of the Sun that is based on an idea of the Mayans, like one of their cities being overrun by rivals, and the prince and his followers having to flee, and they ended up like the coast of what would become Texas, and they come into conflict there with the Native Americans of that area. Yul Brynner plays this like war chief of the folks that he encounters. And Yul Brynner is basically like, he's just wearing like a loincloth, right? For this thing. And this dude looks like a friggin' superhero. I don't know what work he put into, working out and stuff like that, but you're like, holy crap. This dude is like, there's like not a friggin' ounce of fat on him. I mean, he had to work his butt off to get in that kind of shape for this movie. And if you've watched enough old movies, not all actors back then would have done that. They didn't mind being a little bit flabby here and there, right? It was close enough. But like, you're going, damn, this dude could be like playing in the Marvel universe right now. I remember watching him thinking, dude, Yul Brynner could have been an awesome Submariner. Would he have done something like that? Who knows? It was a different world back then and what actors would do. Superhero-y type stuff was done in like movie serials and, B movies and all that kind of thing. But you're going from the look and from like the way he spoke and that intensity that he could put into things. I'm like, dude, Yul Brynner would have been an awesome Prince Namor, Imperious Rex. I'm sorry that you had to sell those, man. I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, with a lot of this stuff, I know that I'm going to be selling it off at some point, and who knows, maybe because I have to, maybe just because nobody wants them. But yeah, that sucks when you have to do something like that, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, you have his album of Russian folk songs. Yeah, people forget he was Russian. Was he from like Kamchatka? Or was it one of the islands like off of there? Yeah. Russian Orthodox. Interesting guy. Did a lot of great movies. And a lot of great action stuff too. He was a hell of an actor. Galaxy Express 999. So I don't know if you've ever seen this. You can find it on Tubi right now. And I've been watching it. You go into it like, well, it's Japanese kids show, right? Dude, it's got some pretty intense stuff in it for a kids show. Now that's true with a lot of Japanese stuff. They put stuff that was American moms probably would not have been thrilled with a lot of it. For all I know, Japanese moms weren't either. But there's some really interesting stuff in this. It's all about humanity is kind of ruled over by cyborgs. So people who have the money can get themselves, they can get the mechanical parts put in. So they'll live sort of forever. And they're really this cruel elite. And so what a lot of humans are trying to do is earn enough money so they can take this trip to this other planet far away and get the same treatment so they could be part of the same elite. because otherwise they're just sort of sometimes even like hunted for sport by these cyborgs. So this little boy, his mom is trying to, get them to this place. They've lost his father. And I don't want to get too far into it, but yeah, it's basically him going on this journey. But the journey through space is on that train that you see in the background. So it looks just like a normal train, but it launches up into the sky and it travels between planets. Really kind of bonkers. Works for the show. Pretty cool animation, but I've been very impressed with this thing. So the complete series is coming out on Blu-ray. Or I guess it is out, I should say. Amazon has it for $90 for the complete series. 113 episodes. It is in Japanese with English subtitles, region A. I think there's some DVD versions of it as well, but you can find it right now on Tubi, and that's the main reason I bring it up. It's really good. Now, it is subtitled, if that's a problem for you, but it's a really interesting anime. I mean, obviously, it's old, and a lot of people already know about it. It was new to me, though, and I was very impressed. And so it's something I've been watching a little bit over time. So I kind of want to, I got one other thing after this, but I saw some announcements for the facsimile comics that Marvel and DC are putting out in the beginning of 2026. There's some cool stuff in here. In January, you're going to have Fantastic Four number 52, The Black Panther arriving, big issue for Marvel Comics. In February, Punisher number 1, facsimile with all the old ads and everything, that rad cover, and Daredevil number 183, so very Punisher-oriented. Obviously, they got Punisher showing up in the next Spider-Man movie. I think maybe they're going to do something TV-wise. So when a character is coming out in other areas, they start putting out facsimiles, which is great for me because even if I don't want to watch the movies, I get some cool facsimile comics that, frankly, I couldn't afford necessarily buying the real vintage comic. So happy about that. So that's Marvel. Couple things in Marvel. DC's got a bunch, though, coming out in January and February. Starting in January with The Killing Joke, Superman number 75, obviously a really big comic in DC history. They got Brave and the Bold number 28, which introduces the Justice League of America and Starro the Conqueror, and New Gods number 1, which is an amazing thing. Jack Kirby jumps from Marvel to DC, right? And if you look at things nowadays, DC is Darkseid, major character, and the whole apocalypse thing. It shows up in the cartoons. He was the main bad guy for the DCEU. In reality, he was the main bad guy for Marvel Cinematic Universe because Thanos was just basically them doing a riff on Darkseid. So many great characters that Kirby brought, but the New Gods actually did not do that well at DC. Nowadays, you would think that it was just huge. It didn't do that well. It's like Kirby brought Marvel into DC, and a lot of DC fans were not really into it. But we got New Gods number 1. That's very cool. Looking forward to that. They're also putting out the Superman, Spider-Man crossovers. So you got both of those coming out with some Alex Ross variant covers, which if you've seen Alex Ross's work, you've probably seen those anyways. So that's very cool. In February, Dark Knight Returns in 4 facsimile issues. You're going to get the Secret Origin of Supervillains Treasury Edition. So those are those big books. Love those because you get a really good look at the art and those things. And of course, they're printed very, very clean. So they always look nice. And we're getting Action Comics number 419, The Most Dangerous Man on Earth. Okay, so some cool facsimile stuff. So they're still rolling with that. From what I can see, the facsimile stuff has done pretty darn well for both DC and for Marvel. I believe this month or December, we're getting the Fantastic Four number 12. So that'll complete the first 12 issues of Fantastic Four. Dude, I would love it if they said, screw it, let's do the next 12 as well. I'd collect Fantastic Four from the beginning, very happily month by month, but we'll see what they do with those. But that stuff coming out, really excited about those Treasury Edition crossovers, though. Looking forward to those. Final thing, from Mafex, they got Ra's al Ghul, and Batman from Hush, $97 and $90 respectively, which is a little bit too rich for my blood. These are releasing September of 2026. So I guess if you want them, you can start saving your pennies. Well, maybe not your pennies. Folks, we're not getting rid of the penny. They're just not making any more of the things. Don't worry too much about pennies. And the reason they had to stop making them is because they've devalued our currency to the point that they don't make sense anymore. Remember, it's not the penny that's the problem. It's the folks printing all the money that are the problem. But at any rate, these are coming out September of 2026. All right. Final thing I have for everybody today in Dad's Den. I finally watched, and Thomas just brought this up, I finally watched the Punisher film from 1989. I had never watched it before. My memory is that it just got sort of dissed a lot and panned at the time. Even in comic book shops, it wasn't right. They didn't have the skull symbol on them, et cetera, et cetera. So I never watched it. It was direct to video in the US. New World was going to release it here, and in Sweden and in South Africa, but basically were in financial troubles. So they didn't. Went straight to video. It was released theatrically everywhere else, though, but apparently earned $30 million on a $9 million budget. So if you do the math, it was actually profitable, even though it didn't have a great release. And now that I've watched it, I kind of get why. It's a pretty damn good action movie. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this one. Director was Mark Goldblatt, who was the editor on a lot of really great films, got an Academy Award nomination for his editing on Terminator 2. Writer was Bose Yakin, who wrote The Rookie, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. He directed Remember the Titans. Punisher was his first screenplay that he ever did. You got Dolph Lundgren, of course, in the main role, Frank Castle in The Punisher. I thought he did a good job. He was still sort of becoming an actor at that point. I think he'd done He-Man already, which is probably what helped him get this particular role. You got Lou Gossett Jr., who's great in the movie, and there is a really good scene between Lundgren and Gossett. Gossett played his ex-partner who thought he was, initially thought he was dead, then thought he was actually the Punisher. Everybody else said, no, he's not. That guy's dead. He believed he was. You get this meeting, this reunion of the two, and it's really, really well done. Jaron Crabbe, not sure how to pronounce his name. He was a bad guy in The Living Daylights. He's a bad guy in this one as well, a organized crime leader. And you got Kim Miori. She was in Saint Elsewhere, played Yoko Ono in a TV movie. She plays this head of the Yakuza who are rolling into New York City to take over everything. She's really, really good. It's kind of interesting. You got her and you got this woman who's sort of a ballerina assassin with all these blades and stuff as two of your bad guys in it that he has to fight. There's some really good action sequences in it, really good stunt work. The story holds together pretty well. Is it a good version of The Punisher? I'm sure people could have a lot of problems with that, with how they do it, but pretty damn good movie. I was really, really happy. I was only about 8 minutes into the thing, and I'm like, this is good. This is a good flick. Great opening action scene. I'm like, wow, I'm really impressed. And when I was thinking about it, in terms of action movies, it's really quite a bit better than Batman 89, Batman was a Tim Burton movie. It's very Tim Burton-y, and I loved it. I watched it in the theaters like 25, 30 times. I was obsessed with that movie. But I'm going, this is just a solid action flick. I think if it had gotten a theatrical release in the US, I think it would have done okay. If it had time for word of mouth to get around, I think folks who were into the Stallone Schwarzenegger stuff, I think they would have dug it. I really do. whether they'd ever heard of the Punisher or not. You really didn't have to. Punisher origin is pretty simple, straightforward. Family killed by organized crime. He wants revenge. You don't need that much more than that. But I think it was a really, really good movie. Glad I finally watched it. Kind of sorry I didn't watch it back in the day. I worked in a video store, for God's sakes. I could have rented this thing any friggin' day that I wanted to for free. Just never got around to it. Man of War, that's a huge commentary on the state of things. Yeah. This movie is better than, I would say, 95% of the MCU. Straight up better. Better acted, better stunts, better action, story's better. It's a better movie. It's a better movie than most of what the MCU is producing these days. The early MCU stuff obviously does pretty well in comparison, but for most of what they've done, it's a better film. It's a solid action movie. You don't have to give a crap about comic books to like this thing. And unlike Batman from that year, it's not in the least bit campy. It takes itself seriously. It doesn't goof around to get cute with things. And Lundgren plays the character very, very downbeat. This is a guy who was really tortured, really, really tortured about what happened, losing his family that way. And he wants revenge, but he's not in a good place at all. There's one line when he's dealing with the one crime lord. Or maybe that was when he was talking with Lou Gossett. I might be getting that wrong. Just about, you've murdered 125 people. And keep in mind, this is not an origin story. It's set 5 years after he's gone on to his campaign against crime. You get flashbacks, which I think is a great way to do it. You've like killed 125 people. You murdered them, I think you've had enough vengeance. And he's like, well, not for me. I mean, I'm not done yet. Anyways, really, 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 really great one. The penny dilemma. Oh, yeah. Oh, gotcha. I gotcha. It is they've printed money to the point that nothing works. By the way, why can't they make action movies like this anymore? Well, part of it is because of devaluing the currency. There's so many things that worked in the 70s and 80s in terms of entertainment that you cannot do anymore. You can't afford it. Can't afford the insurance, can't afford this, can't afford that. And you have all these people who want to be the rich elite, and because they've devalued the currency so much, they need to eke out every tiny scrap they can of profit out of everything, to the point that they're killing everything that they're trying to get profit out of. But they got to keep up with the other rich people, and it's very difficult to do nowadays. And I know some people go, well, that's late stage capitalism. No, printing money unrestrained at the Fed is not capitalism. It's the opposite of capitalism, to be quite frank. Yeah, this is government gone wild. God bless the penny. I support you to the end, sir. Bad movies. Lady Wendell says bad movies that we thought, or movies we thought were bad, are better compared to current movies. That's true quite often. It really is. And I'd love it if they could get back to doing this stuff. And I saw Thomas say, I love Jaron Krabbe. Check out The Fourth Man. It was directed by Paul Furrow. I'll check that out. I will check that out. Yeah, he was good. Dude, he was in Living Daylights, and I loved Living Daylights. That was the first Bond movie that I ever got to see in a theater. I'd obviously seen other ones on TV growing up because it was a big thing for like the Sunday night movie, Bond is back and blah, 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 blah. But that was the first one I ever saw in a theater, and I loved it. I thought Dalton was a great Bond, and unfortunately it just didn't last. And I didn't like the second movie as much when I watched it back in the day. I'd like to rewatch it. I really would like to rewatch that and see if my attitudes improved towards that film, because it was a different one. It was a little bit darker, and Bond is, I kind of like a fun Bond more than a dark Bond, but I'd like to see that one again one of these days. Okay, folks, that'll just about do it for us in Dad's Den today. That's a long stream, man. I did a short one last week, so I've made up for it this week. Coming up this week on Dad's Den of Pop Culture on Monday, we got Justice League America number 48 and Justice League Europe number 24 for Justice League Monday. We only got a few of these left. We're going to get to the end of the General Glory storyline for sure. And I just, well, it's not a spoiler. Justice League Europe is going to be tangling with Starro the Conqueror. And I think we're going to get to the end of that one when we close it out. I think I'm going to close out, and this is just how it worked out. I'm going to close out just as the Breakdowns sort of maxi series begins, which was kind of where Giffen and DeMatteis were leaving the book. And so new creatives were going to take over after that point. And it was a pretty good end to the series. A lot of emotion in it. I'm actually thinking I might do a video about Breakdowns at some point as a sort of supplemental to the Justice League series that I've done, because it does close out the run that those guys did on the book. On Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a review of a 1967 British TV pilot called Solarnauts, which you can find on YouTube. I think it was pretty cool. I thought it was fun. I wanted to show it off. I like a lot of the design in it. It was done by a woman who had worked with Jerry Anderson and then gone off on her own, done a Marionation show called Space Patrol that I kind of liked. And so this was her trying to do live action before Jerry Anderson got to do live action sci-fi with UFO. This was kind of a sort of a Buck Rogers kind of take on sci-fi, but it was fun. So tune in on Wednesday. You can see my review of that and some images. And then on Friday, I'm doing Phantom Lady Year 1. So we're looking at the first year of comic books of the character Phantom Lady, who has become sort of an icon of comic book pinups over time. We're going to look and see how pinup-y she was in her first year and kind of look at that book. So the main reason I did it is she appeared in Police Comics #1, which also had Plastic Man. So when I was doing the Plastic Man series, I'm like, well, I could do Phantom Lady as well as I looked through each book, because it's the first 12 issues of Police Comics. So I decided to do a video on Phantom Lady. So that is coming up on Friday. Hope everybody can tune in and watch it. Hope you had a good time on this stream. Thank you, everybody who got in the chat. Thomas and Manowar and Ramey, and of course, Lady Wendelin, who's always keeping me on the straight and narrow path, except not to the point of me not doing upskirt shots of Dr. Should we do an upskirt on Dr.? No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're keeping it clean in the den. But thank you, everybody, for joining in the chat and showing up, and everybody out there who didn't jump in the chat but watched. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. So with that, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun. We're heading into December. Have some Christmas fun, folks. Have a good time. And I'll see you again hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture.